So my name is Brandon Hale, and I work for Redemption Road Recovery Center for Men, which is located in Barberville, Kentucky. And basically, what I do is I'm just kind of like a temporary peer support specialist at the moment. I'm waiting to get my full license and stuff like that. But what I do is I just kind of help counsel the guys, do classes, just kind of like uh, I don't want to say on like that, that I'm uh, licensed or anything, but just try to help these guys, kind of get into the idea of doing better things and stuff like that, and a different way of life and moving on and stuff.
How long have you been in recovery?
I came to Redemption Road on July 10th of 2022. I came there after spending 4 days on the street. I had gotten out of jail on July 6th. I had an ankle monitor on. I thought I would have a house, but I didn't have a house. And so actually when I came there not expecting to come to rehab. My intentions that day, July 10th, when I went and left my friend's house, was to actually go back to jail because I didn't know what else to do. And so I went downtown Middlesboro, sat down on a bench, and I waited for the police to come pick me up. And instead of them picking me up, they just told me that I couldn't be sitting on that bench because I fell asleep because I'd been doing drugs. I'd been getting high again for about 4 days. And so I hadn't slept. And so I didn't know what to do at that point. And there was this, I kept getting this little, nudge to tell me to go over to this church. And so I went over to the church, and it's called New Heights Church, located in Middlesboro, over behind the mall. And I sat down in front of the door. And when I fell back asleep, and a friend of mine woke me up. He brought me some food, checked on me, made sure I hadn't OD'd or something. And then he left, and I remember I fell back asleep, and this old man named Mark Elkins woke me up. He was the pastor. He's no longer with us. And he got on the phone, and I thought that he was calling the police, but instead he was calling Redemption Road, and that's how I ended up there.
During your early recovery, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced?
Um, commitment, commitment to it, commitment to wanting to do something different. Um, wanting to go back out and continue doing the same thing that I was comfortable with, which was getting high and running the streets and stuff like that. I remember I dealt with a lot of, so I was facing a lot of time during this. I was looking at a lengthy prison possible stay, and I would hear this little, I would say to myself sometimes, like, why am I wasting my time doing this and not out here doing that when I know I'm going to go to jail for a long time? So it was things like that, but mostly the commitment to want to do it.
What helped you stay committed?
That's kind of a tough one right there. There's the real true factor I could say was that I stopped running from the Lord.
Okay.
That was it.
Who were the most important people in your journey that got you to where you are now?
Well, the Lord, number one. Jesus Christ, number one. That's the reason why everything changed for me. When I truly understood what the Lord wanted in my life, I was able, I laid it down to Him. And then along the way, He brought many people along my path. Josh Hatton, Derek Phipps, Daniel Phipps, Brandon Marcy, just all the guys that I worked with, that I work with now up there, and the ones that were there when I was there and that were supportive and trying to encourage me. And, you'll hear a lot, we love you, man. We want you to get through it. And a lot of times you're just thinking that people are just saying that to you, and they're just trying to get, they're just, you kind of get in this mindset where everybody just wants something from you. So you are always expecting some kind of catch, or you're waiting for somebody to, come at you with that, like, well, this is what we need from you, but no one ever did. And so it's the Lord moving through them people and showing me this is where I needed to be.
What kind of role did your family play during your early recovery and now?
So in my early recovery, I had a big drive to want to be back in my children's life. I had been out of their life for several years. I hadn't spoke to them or seen them. My mother and father had passed away while I was in addiction. They neither one got to see me come out of that. And that's kind of a tough one because, the last time that I had spoke to my mom, we had gotten into an argument, and she had passed away a few days later before I ever got a chance to talk to her again. And my dad, um, we had always kind of, I wouldn't want to say use the words estranged, but like there were times when we just didn't agree on things, and so instead of willing to let go of those things, I would hold on to them, and eventually when he got to the point where he passed away, instead of trying to reach out, maybe even go see him one last time, I was really selfish and prideful, and I didn't. Um, as far as my brothers, I got two brothers. One, I didn't really speak to either one of them during the time. I did speak to one. I speak to them both now, but I kind of seen them doing a little bit better, and it kind of, I wanted to be able to do that too. And I kind of felt like, I was the older brother, and I needed to kind of maybe set that. If I remember, me and my brothers would talk sometimes, and we would always say things like, somebody's got to, step out of this thing, and we got to do something. And so when I did, I felt like I needed to do that. And so, like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. What programs, groups, or services have been the most helpful to you?
Oh, wow. So first and foremost would be my church family. That would be that group. But I've it was a church down in Millsboro, and they're Celebrate Recovery, and my children's church, who I know prayed for me and stuff like that. As far as personally, there's a lot of them to name. I can't really, I would just say anyone in the recovery, that is truly have a heart for people and that loves people and wants to see people come out of addiction and be in recovery. Everything from, I'll say, from Celebrate Recovers to AA to NA, to just meeting you, coming here and meeting you that day. I talk about that. It's just to hear your testimony about how the Lord's changed your heart on things. Those things are going to help me a lot. I remember being in addiction, and the going to like the needle exchanges and stuff like that. They would help me because it was trying to be more healthier and stuff like that. And then there was also people there trying to get me to change and stuff. And I think it was just always that consistency of like people trying to help, and just seeing that there was hope.
That there was no catch to what they were
There was
trying
no catch. Yeah.
to offer you. How do you manage stress, triggers, or cravings today?
Um, so like I'm a firm believer in prayer, and I'm a firm believer in relying on the Word of God and His promises. And so when things start getting bad, I lean on that a lot. And then the Lord has brought people in my life, that I've learned to, instead of bottling it up and never speaking about it, I speak about it, and I go to people and I'm open about things. That's probably one of the most important things that I could tell anybody is that you can't, if you just hold on to it, it's just going to fester like a wound until you either blow up or, and one of two things are going to happen. You're going to either go back to that or you're going to open up about it. And the best thing is instead of just holding on to it, just open up about it. That's been the big thing that's helped me. And then just trying to find other things to do, getting back in the daily life, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I remember when I was out on the street, I got to this point where I was saying to myself, I miss paying bills. And as crazy as that sounds, but there is a thing that comes with that of like a routine and just knowing that you're not out here just wasting time and just wasting life and stuff like that. I knew there was a certain peace that came with that. I knew that if I was doing that, then I wasn't doing these other things, and that I was doing something productive and constructive in my life.
How do you handle setbacks or difficult life events without returning to substance use?
So I'm gonna go back to when I answered earlier about opening up about things, speaking about things.
So you think it's important that people tell their story to others?
I think it's important that your testimony, but I also think it's important that you understand that you have people that you can go to and speak to and rely on and stuff like that. We are never in a position. I would say it's a dangerous thing to say, and I've heard this. I heard this said by pastors and so many people in recovery. It is so dangerous to get to a place where you say, "I've got this," because you've never really got it. We don't have anything, and I don't think that just is people in recovery only. I think that's with everyone. There's always, when we think that we got all the answers, then we find out we don't. We always see such a small part of things, and so it's being able to open up about our feelings and being able to open up, like if you're having cravings or triggers or anything like that, if you get upset, and like I said, once again, I always go back to leaning on the Word. I trust in God's Word. Not to the point that I read it, but I try to be a doer also. I try to apply it to my life. That's the big thing, is applying it to my life.
What is some advice that you would give to someone who's new in recovery?
Sit still for a little while. Recovery isn't a quick, fast fix. It is an overtime commitment process that will work if you give it a chance. And so I would just say, sit still and be at peace for a little while. You don't have to get up and chase things anymore. Like one of the things that we always would do is we would wake up every day. Where am I going to get my next fix? We don't have to do that no more. And remember that, that there are people around you that want to see you make it, and you need to open up to them.
What were your drugs of choice when you were in addiction?
So I could basically, like, I hate to use this really bad term, but I was kind of like a garbage can. I would do whatever was available for a long period of time. But then near the end of my drug addiction, before I got into recovery and before I gave it all up, I had gotten to a place where I was using methamphetamines a lot. I had gone through the opiate addictions, everything from heroin to fentanyl and stuff like that, to prescription medications. And so on the end of it, I had not gone to the clinic, and I was getting it on the street with Suboxone and stuff like that. And and I was doing it, not the proper ways, intravenously on both things. So, but I was also drinking on top of it and using marijuana, just basically anything to try to make myself feel better and numb myself, But those were like I would say it was methamphetamines and Suboxone at the end. That were the big things. Yeah. And it's not to down it or anything like that, but that's just where I was at.
What accomplishment in recovery are you most proud of?
So it was. So one of the things I would say that holds people back a lot, and this is a biblical thing, but it's also just a thing that we've all, I think everyone faces, is that we get prideful sometimes, and we get stubborn, and we get to a place where we get ashamed, and we feel guilt-ridden, and instead of facing and dealing with those things, we try to bury them and stuff like that. And so, the biggest thing was, trying to get back into my children's life, right? And so I had tried and tried and tried, and every door had been closed. But then a door opened up one day, and it opened up on a day that I got, I hate to use the word tested, but like I got tempted. I had gone out with somebody and went to their place, and there was drugs everywhere. And I could have went right back to using again. Everything that I could have wanted was right there, but I was able to look at it and see it for everything that it was, and I was able to like understand, that everything that was going to come after it if I did it, and everything that I was going to throw away. And I remember I did, and I remember I walked outside and I prayed and I waited for them to come out. And we went down the road, and as we were going down the road, like this thought come through my head about reaching out to my brother, my baby brother, because I knew he had been in contact with my ex-wife and stuff like that, and about getting in talk, about reaching out to her and telling her where I was at and what I'd been doing, and that we were having this big revival, and that I would like to invite them, and that I would like to see the kids, and if there's any possible way, I'll do whatever needs to be done. Okay, I was willing to get, to do whatever needs to be done to come back in their life if she'll let me. And so before that, I was very resentful for my own doings. It wasn't anything that she had done. I can't blame her for anything she had ever done. I pushed her to a point where she had to protect her and the kids and stuff like that. My drug addiction was getting to the point where I was taking money and I was just being very irresponsible and stuff like that. And so like it was because of understanding that I had this thing where I needed to learn to humble myself, to just basically lay everything down and trust at the Lord's feet and get back into whatever it took to get back into their life. It wasn't no longer about me and her. It was, they needed me. They needed me in their life, or I was their father, and they deserve that much. They deserve to hear the truth, regardless of whether they wanted me back in their life or not. And because of that, the Lord opened such a door that, and I talk to my kids all the time now. I spent several days with them down in Gatlinburg and stuff like that, and I had a great time. And I would say that, and what's going to come from that, it's not to the place where I would want it to be, but I understand that, all these things are a process and they take time, but definitely that, I'm so grateful for that. Like, and
So restoration of relationships.
yeah, yeah, you could put it like that. Yeah.
Achievement.
Yeah,
And that's important.
it is. And then just, it also comes with a personal thing too. We low self-esteem and low confidence, because you keep giving up and you keep giving up and you keep giving up. And then finally, like once you get to a place where you're not doing that no more, then you start actually having some hope again. I remember I used to measure each day by whether I had enough hope to get up and do anything, and really that was getting less and less every day because I was getting to a place where I just didn't care,
If you could say one thing to someone who's contemplating recovery, what would you say?
Give it a chance. I know you can't see the big picture right now, but God's opening a door for you or trying to make a way for you out. Take it. I know what it feels like to be trapped in that, to feel like you have no way out, and if you get the opportunity, take it and don't look back.